Detroit Lions for a Friday night show.
Okay, so that's awesome, man. Here's what I want to talk about tonight. I did not look at your sheet yet from the other day because I know you were planning on doing something this morning, but obviously we are off. But I got to looking at some of the rankings from PFF, and I always go back, to at least the beginning of the season, just like I did last year, and I go through the unbiased reviews, which will be coming out soon. And then I also go through the rankings. What's PFF saying? What are the Lions looking like? What are all the other teams looking like to start the season? And we have, let's be real here. We have two really big shakeups to start this season. One, it's the offensive line. Right? We have three pillars left from last season, right and left tackle, and we still have a center in Graham Glasgow. But largely the interior of that offensive line is all brand new, right? And then it's the defense. Aiden Hutchinson's coming back, but we don't know what he looks like. And we don't know, is he going to get back to him old self? Is it going to take some time? So really, it's kind of starting the season brand new. And I don't like that at all because it doesn't make us feel very good. But I think if we know one thing about this team and under Dan Campbell is that they're always going to be ready. So what premonitions do you have going into the season about those two fronts to start?
Yeah, that's where everything hinges, right? We know that's where Brad Holmes started. His very first draft pick was Penei Sewell. He slammed the table, almost broke the damn thing because he was so excited. Perfect player to start your, no better as a perfect first draft pick, I feel like, for you as a GM and as a head coach. There was reason they were elated to get him. And then everything on this team has been built on both sides of the ball, starting in the trenches. And you're right. We don't know. We want to believe. We've had these conversations. We've got reason to believe the Lions will be good. We hope that they will be good, but there is some uncertainty and some things that we don't know. We don't know how Hutch will look, as you said. We don't know how these young rookies are going to play that are going to be relied on, or a second-year guy. So a lot of things that are up in the air that we didn't have this time last year. We had players that you knew what you were going to get, and that's not necessarily the case this year, at least on a couple of links in the chain.
Exactly. I guess I probably couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's a good analogy of kind of what we're looking for. Let's start with this. Offensive line. I guess we'll just go right to the offensive line. And there was an old Twitter link that I came across today that I guess it kind of identifies exactly what I'm thinking here is gonna happen for Tate Ratledge, which in this offensive line, I don't feel like we're gonna suffer a big loss, and largely it's because of the type of player that we're bringing in. I just got to get this set up. For some reason, it's not loving me today.
Yeah, we're all good. Nice to see everybody here on a Friday night. I think we did this last Friday or 2 Fridays ago, so it's kind of fun to be here for an evening show. Brandy, Maureen, Attila the Hunt, Trace, Marcus Newsome, Scott, a bunch of returning and some new names to me anyway. Good to see everybody.
Okay, so this was a post by PFF, and this was back in April, and this is before the draft. So this is April 6, 2025. I just happened to remember this today when I saw this. I'm like, man, how did the Lions get so lucky again with getting this guy? So PFF put this out again, April 6th, so well before the draft, in saying that he has been consistently one of the best interior pass protectors in the nation throughout his career. Not just 1 year, not 2 years, but career. Steadily improving in the run game. PFF draft grade analyst or draft guide on Tate Ratledge. When we dig into the grades themselves, when we dig into all of the pre-work leading up to the draft, it's no different. It speaks much more of the same. And that's where I'm going to go next is what did the work even say? what were the draft rankings? Let me bring in PFF's rankings. And again, how do the Lions get so lucky is the question of the night. Because when you look at, okay, so we grabbed Tate Ratledge in the second round, and everyone's like, oh, okay, he's like one of the last guys left. No. On my board, he was one of the best guards. He was the best guard ranked at the top of my board. Miles Frazier was just a couple of slots below him. But on a lot of people's boards, he was way down, right? 5th, 6th round. And I didn't have him there. I had him, at or near the top of the board, just like I did with, I'm going to have to go back and find that, just like I did with everybody else. So, Riley, before I switch screens again, Lions get Tate Ratledge. I doubt you really did a deep dive into him. What was your initial thought and how he was going to help the line this year, not knowing that Frank Ragnow was going to retire?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You and Eric were there live, and once, if I'm not mistaken, did they trade up for that pick where they took Tate?
3, yeah, they moved up 3 spots, I believe.
Yeah, so I think you had just stepped away from the table. Then you got word, hey, they've moved. You sat back down, hurried, and went through your process, and you said it's got to be Tate Ratledge right here. And again, as you said, that was before we knew that Frank was done playing.
Right.
And we've talked about it on the show. I've asked you before, you were pretty elated with the pick in the moment. How much more elated would we have been if we knew that Ragnow wasn't going to be back on the roster? So they grabbed him. Everything we've seen about Tate so far, he screams Detroit Lion. This is a guy that I'm sure, going into the draft, these were players, Tyleik Williams, Tate Ratledge, that Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, those are guys, we got to get them no matter what. And you're right. Whether it was luck, it was preparation, it was maybe both. Preparation met the right opportunity, and they got their guys. But yeah, I'm very excited about Tate Ratledge, his versatility, and even more so without Frank on the roster.
Okay, let's take a look at how PFF broke this down before the draft. So this is guard rankings. Okay, let me scroll up. This is your draft, your interior. I know that the screen looks terrible. Interior rankings. Okay, let me slide that over a little bit. This is your interior rankings before the draft. And for me, I'm like, okay, cool. Or is everyone going to have a shot to get Booker? Probably not. Let me make sure that you're actually in this scene too, Riley, so that we can hear you. Man, too much back office stuff going on today. I used to have all these scenes built out, but it seems like I've rebuilt OBS 10 times and kind of lose some of this stuff. All right, you should be in the group now. Okay, so this was the rankings to start, the pre-draft process. And let's just take a look at it. Tyler Booker, Riley got us, right? You can hear me?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, Tyler Booker's number 1. And PFF has him going at 48, right? So his big draft board ranking is 48. And that's kind of where you're expecting him to go based on, all of the other data of all the other players that should be selected before Tyler went off the board. Tate Ratledge was number 2, 20 spots later, though. 20. And then just 60 spots after that, right? I mean, a few rounds later, it's Miles Frazier. But these are your top 4 guards on the board. Tyler Booker, Tate Ratledge, Jared Wilson, Miles Frazier. Top 4 guards. Now, I get it. Everyone wants the tackles, and you have a lot of tackle conversions. It's not easy, right? It's not easy to just accept that maybe you're going to draft a tackle and you're going to turn them into a guard. You don't know how they're going to play unless they have put some time in, at the position. You have no clue how they're going to turn out at the guard position. Some guys, it's more of a natural fit. A lot of other guys, it's not. But in this case, we get a natural guard that they're trying to turn into a center. But we got the second best guard overall on PFF Sport. if you believe in PFF, right, you're saying that's a really good pull for the Detroit Lions to be able to grab what would have been the second best guard. What is your thought process here? What is your thought that the Lions were able to not only grab the second best, at least according to PFF, me, it was the best overall. And that's not just me saying that. It's on my board. And while you're talking about that, I'm going to try to find my board.
Yeah, it's not an accident, right? I keep going back to I was excited about the pick without even having all the puzzle pieces, right? We know, and you're right. There are certain players you can't cross train. You can't expect them to perform equally well at different positions. Maybe at the time they knew Ragnar was retiring, but even if they didn't, and especially if they didn't, the pick was just perfect, especially with Ratledge. And then to be able to get Miles Frazier, you're getting a top, rated offensive lineman in a later round. And as you said, you had him as a much higher grade than the round he went in. And it seems like the Lions front office did as well. So if we're to believe all of that, and until Brad Holmes has a horrible draft, I'm going to keep believing in it. He's going to keep going by that philosophy of get in, get what you want, and get the hell out of there. It seems like they've done it again this year, even though it wasn't the, skill positions like we had with Gibbs and Laporta and Branch, but it was the same type of mentality, it seems, going into that draft.
See, I would argue that I know what you're saying, and I would argue that the skill positions are also the offensive line. I mean, why wouldn't it be, right? I mean, don't you want some pretty skilled guys? And I know what you're saying, right? They're not a wide receiver, they're not a running back, they're not a quarterback. They're not the guys that you're looking for, to make a huge impact on the team. But I think that all of us know that offensive line is key. Defensive line is key. If without either one of those two in your favor, good luck. Because if you can't set the stage up front, you're going to have a hard time doing it all season long. I don't know why I can't find my board, man. It's in an Excel spreadsheet somewhere. At some point I'll find it. I know I tried to share it on the day of the draft.
Yeah, I remember very, very well the clip again, because that's why I seemed to have the recollection that the Lions made a trade, because I think you had just stand up. You told Eric, hey, I'm going to go get a coffee or something, bite to eat or something. And then it was, the Lions had traded. And you sat down, and at the time, there's talk about a receiver. We didn't really know what position it was going to be. Was it going to be an edge, edge player right there? And there were still some really good names on the board. Stood to reason that it's probably an edge, but then you came to me again. I'm somebody that consumed a ton of content going into it. I didn't think that they were coming out of that draft with Tate Ratledge, but as you kind of went through that process, it was clear that Ratledge was not a surprise pick to you there. And I mean, I think that's a product, obviously, of the work that you put into it. And again, if we had known that Ragnar was going to step down, you would have been thinking maybe the first round pick would have been an offensive lineman.
I think so.
They knew, right?
I honestly feel that if they knew that if he hung it up before the draft, you might have seen a different player taken in the first round, maybe. Maybe not. And Tyleek was also my guy in the first round, but where do you grab a center? That's the only question that I have, about this draft is why didn't you grab a center? Let me go back to that board because, and I'm not going to put it on the screen, but Jared Wilson, right? I want to say that Jared Wilson was still available right after Tate was taken, and Jared Wilson was George's pretty sure he was George's center all of the year before with Tate. So that didn't make sense to me. If they knew that Ragnar was going to be gone, why didn't they just take another one? Right after they could have, but then again, you wouldn't have had Isaac Tesla either, which we don't know who he's going to turn out to be yet. So let me further this a little bit. Let me keep going. Tate's pass blocking, right? That's what he's known for. Now, earlier when I shared that picture of Tate Ratledge from PFF saying that his run blocking has been getting better and better, right? He hasn't been known as a road grader just yet. I think he has it in him. But when you take a look at these pass blocking grades from PFF, I think that it's going to kind of cool the temperature in Detroit a little bit as far as we don't need to worry. I don't think that we need to worry about what's about to happen on this offense. I think they're in good hands. And I think that Tate Ratledge is going to do an excellent job at managing. I mean, look at these pass blocking grades. So I don't have it all the way open, but you can kind of see from week 1 here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. That way you can kind of see the schools too that they're going up against.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Tate Ratledge and his weekly pass blocking grades, according to PFF, last year with Georgia. Now, week 1, Tennessee Martin, I have no clue who that school is. 85.4. If you were to have an 85.4 in the NFL every single week, you're one of the best, right? You're one of the best pass blockers in the league. Ball State didn't have a great, that should be a school he should have been fine against, didn't have a great week 2. South Carolina, 75.2, UAB, 85.7. And then we get into the real schedule, right? The first 3-4 games of a season for a school like this are just kind of throwaway teams. All of you U of M fans know that, right? You get four home games to start the season, and they're all crap teams. I'm just saying, you guys know full well, right? All right, so Auburn, week 5, he kicks it off with a 74.6. Kentucky, they're a decent school. They're not a powerhouse by any means. 81.4. Vanderbilt, again, not a great school, but it is what it is. 1 hit is what he allowed in that game. 1 hit is what he allowed versus Auburn. Florida, damn good school. Good football team. 84.9. 0 hits in that game. Missouri. Now, Ole Miss, one of the better defenses in all of college last season. Look how many players came from Ole Miss last year in this draft. 76.3. I'm sorry, 81.3. Tennessee, 85.1. Alabama, 73. And Florida State, 86.1. Here's the kicker. Let me open this up. I guess while I'm doing this, Riley, when you see that, what comes to mind? What are you thinking?
Yeah, this guy is not, when you draft a player and it's like, oh, are we having to move him position? Is this just because there was an unexpected retirement? I don't think so. I think they obviously took this player knowing, and as you talked about, why wouldn't they take, a player at that position that Ragnow, you need to fill that hole. But I think they take into account everything, the player, the makeup, his footwork, his strength, his mentality, everything about him, how he's going to fit in the culture. Great pick, man. Again, at the time, at the night of the draft, I wasn't as sure. I just didn't know as much about Tate Ratledge. But the more time has passed on, I'm thrilled that they got Ratledge in Detroit.
As am I. But let's look at this a little bit deeper. Look at that first line there. It's at the top, SK. You know what that stands for? Sacks, right?
Right.
That is a big number for Lions fans. They love the sacks. They want to see 2 Aiden Hutchinsons pulling down 20 sacks a year a piece. So it just doesn't happen. Look at his number as you go through the season. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and all the way down to the rest of the last game of the season, big fat 0. The whole season, he allowed 0 sacks. He allowed 3 hits, 2 hurries. The entire season, 5 pressures. Are we worried at all? Right now, I'm not. I'm not worried one bit with the type of schedule that he's gone up against. And this is last year. This isn't even speaking to what he did in 2020. This is 2023. This is not even speaking to what he did in 2024. Let's pull up 2024.
Yeah, we went through that a little bit the other morning, looking at Panay Sewell's numbers. Those kind of look like Panay Sewell type numbers. Obviously, competition, different, but imagining putting him on that along that same line with the Panay Sewell. I wish I could just hang out with these guys, Tate and Panay, and just see kind of what they're talking about and how they're working out. And you got to imagine the bond is already strong between these guys. I'm excited to see him on the field.
Yeah, so the previous screen was 23. This is 2024. He had 2 bad games this year. He had Notre Dame. I mean, obviously one of the teams that was in it to win it to the very end. And then this was the Ole Miss defense that I was talking about. And last year's defense was one of the best defenses in the league last year. And he allowed one sack in that game. So 1 pressure, 7 pressures all season, only 4 hurries, 2 hits on the quarterback, and 1 sack all season long. So he did miss a couple of games last year. He was pretty banged up at times, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He looks like he got in 10 games maybe, but 2 of those were was that conference championship and then there was I don't even know how the college championship runs now because there's so many games, but 2 of them were playoff games. Let's put it that way. He was only in 7 regular season games. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Yeah, he was in 8 regular season games last year. He missed a couple of weeks, but I love the stats. I mean, it tells me that year to year to year, he's the same football player. Let's go all the way back to 22. Who is this guy?
Yeah, that's a great point. I like what you just said, and that kind of leads into a question that I do have for you. I can ask you now, or I can ask you kind of when
ask whatever you want. We're just kind of just rolling through this tonight.
So like when you mentioned, hey, I'm not really worried about Tate Ratledge. We're kind of going through the reasons why, but what is the number one reason? If I just said, Will, you're not worried about Ratledge, why? What comes to mind?
Honestly, this is going to sound stupid. When I came across that interview of him in 2023, and I was listening to the words that were coming out of his mouth, I was like, this is Frank Ragnow speaking. This is Panay Sewell speaking. This is Taylor Decker speaking, all in one. Everything that he said in that 2023 interview, and I forget, the guy that he was doing the interview with, but I highlighted it on a video here, or at least maybe it was on a live show here. At that moment, I was like, that's the dude. So that's after the draft, right? That's, finding things out about the guy later that made me feel it's his work ethic. It's who he is as a person. I mean, he's got the height, the weight, the speed. Brad loves that now, right? The height, weight, speed. That's a big joke now in Detroit. Right. But he has all the measurables. He has the intangibles. I mean, he's a likable guy, but likable guys don't win on the football field, right? He's got to have that mean streak to him. And you see that in his gameplay. But if you do now, if you're going to talk about, specifics about his gameplay, yeah, I'd say he's got really good footwork. I think he utilizes his leverage extremely well. And I'm excited to see how this grows with guys like Panay Sewell and Hank Fraley around him, grabbing this guy up and helping him get better. But it's the consistency, I think, overall is the number one thing that I see here. But this is his grades all the way back to 2022 now. How many sacks, Riley? 1.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So what has he given up his entire college career? So he gave up 1 sack. These are all darn near elite grades, and he's going up against South Carolina, Missouri, again, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, LSU, Ohio State, TCU. I mean, 3 more games, and that's the other thing. This guy is battle-tested in playoffs. He's battle-tested in the college championships. So for this guy to go through that, and now he's entering a team that is trying to get battle-tested in these postseason opportunities, that's kind of where we are at right now, is we need guys that are battle-tested that can help take this to the next level, and he has that experience. I think it would be a much different experience for a guy that's coming from, well, let's just say it, from Michigan, or from Michigan State, that they haven't been battle tested a whole lot over, many, many, many seasons in a row. Michigan won one a couple years ago, but when's the last time they won one before that? Michigan State, God, they've sucked for a long time. So I think that there's a big difference when you take a player from a team, and I just threw those names out because they're just the first to come to my mind. You taking players from a team that just doesn't do a whole lot in the postseason. They don't have that experience. The only way that you can understand what it's like to go through that is if you've been there, right? Watching it on the sidelines, watching it in the stands doesn't mean a damn thing. Go through it, right? But that means you've got to get through it. Your team's got to experience it, and he's been through it ever since 2022, since he was with Georgia. He's been in it like every year. So adding that type of experience to this roster, it's invaluable. It's invaluable, but it's consistency overall, Riley.
Yeah, 100%. And there's an analogy that comes to my mind, and see if I can make this as condensed as possible. But the NBA draft was a couple days ago, and the team I like, the Utah Jazz, they took an 18-year-old, super promising, highly talented young prospect with the 4th pick. And then later in the draft, they traded up and they take a guy who's good, but there are some who are saying, oh, you could have taken this Kasparis Yakachunas guy that maybe he's even better. Well, the Jazz came out and said that a lot of the reason why they took the dude at the 18th pick is because his maturity and his pedigree. He played point guard at Florida. So they want him to come in with this prized 4th pick so that they can be buddies and have somebody that is matured, that's got game experience, but has won at this level, because the other guy was only 19 years old. So there is something to say. You've got to have talent, but then you take into consideration, we take, a super talented player here, but we also need a player that has the personality and the traits that we need, where we can rely on him to play right away and contribute to the team in ways that just aren't statistical, right? And so I guess that also gets into, when do we expect to see Ratledge starting? Will it be week 1? When does he take over for Graham Glasgow, if he does?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. What's up with all the different name changes going on in the chat? I just noticed this. Trace looks like her name's changed. Brandy Coffee, is your name changed too?
Yeah.
You guys trying to make it difficult for me to make sure who it is?
Keeping everybody on their toes. Mine's different because I reset my history here right before we went in. So now I'm on I got 2 different YouTube channels, I guess. So I'm on.
You got a burner account, huh? I see how it is.
I would say it's a burner, but it says Riley O'Lion, which is a mix of Riley O'Brien. So if anybody's talking smack from Riley O'Lion, it's no secret who it is.
There you go. There you go.
And Todd made a great point too. Todd Beaudry, Hank is the biggest reason why the O-line will still be awesome. We've talked about that on the show too. But yeah, it's a great point. Great position coach. One of the guys that I'm super glad for. All the ones that we lost, thank goodness we didn't lose Hank.
Brent says I didn't change anything. Yeah, I just I think it's funny. What's happening in all YouTube channels? What are we missing, Trace? What's the conversation? What'd I miss?
Maybe she's talking about the name change, because yeah, now it's got the @ before everybody's name. But
are you guys saying that YouTube changed all of your names?
I think so. It used to not have the @ before everybody's name.
Okay, so you guys know how to change that, though, right? You guys know how to change your name. Name change isn't happening on all YouTube channels. What does that mean? Okay, so everyone knows how to change their name. I mean, obviously the handles, there's only so many. Yeah, so why would it be changing here? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll have to check into some other channels to see if it's doing it. But
okay, so Michael Garrity, yeah, if you need to know how to change it, in one of these nights, I'll just pump out a video of how to change your stuff.
Step by step.
Right. It's not hard. It's super simple. But the problem is, if the handle's not available, it's not available. Sometimes you can just go in and drop the numbers and you might be good, but I'll put a little video together for you guys. I'll just put it in the members chat. For those of you that are members, if you're not a member and you need to know, I can help you out with that too. So anyway, we're talking about the offensive line and the defensive line. There were some rankings that came out, and one of them happened to be like the defensive line ranking. Offensive line is kind of where I'm at right now. And the draft rankings, where I'm not surprised, right? The 33rd team put out this scouting report on Tate Ratledge. Let me just read a few things in here. And again, this is why I don't want to make this all about Tate, because the other guy on the list, the other guy that I was pointing to, that how did the Lions get this lucky, is Miles Frazier, right? He was the 4th best guard listed on the draft boards, but he was, 5th round, right, is where they were expecting him to go. Where did the Lions end up getting him? 6th round or 5th round?
I believe it was the 5th, because I think the 6th was Ahmed.
Yeah, that's true. So it was 5th round. Look, Miles Frazier is just as big of a dog as Tate Ratledge, and that's no joke. Like, I'm not even blowing smoke. The fact that this guy got taken so late, I'm not even sure how. I really don't understand that. Playing for LSU, a starter for LSU, going up against the type of competition that he's also gone up against. Take a look at these numbers. So this is Miles Frazier, okay? 2024. Elite numbers, would you not say? I mean, and this is up against USC, South Carolina, South Alabama's not any big deal. Ole Miss, huge competition. Texas A&M, Alabama, Florida, Oklahoma, Baylor. I mean, all great competition last year. I mean, elite, near elite numbers the entire season. But again, how many sacks did this guy give up, Riley?
Yeah, I don't see any.
0 sacks. How many hits?
1.
One hit.
First game of the year.
Whole season. Now, he gave up a few hurries. He gave up 12. So 13 pressures, 13 pressures on 579 snaps.
That's incredible production.
Right. So we brought in 2 guys that don't give up sacks, that don't give up hits, that barely give up any hurries. And these guys are going up against the elite of the elite as far as competition every single season. That was 24. Let's take a look at 23. Okay,
So
couple of bumps in the road here, right? Up against Missouri and Texas A&M in 2023, he had a little bit of a blip. And again, this is just pass blocking. That's all I'm looking at is pass blocking right now. We haven't even looked at run blocking yet. But this is just pass blocking. Again, elite numbers through the most difficult part of the schedule here. Auburn, Army, Alabama, Florida, Georgia State. I mean, all 80, 3.3 and up, all the elite numbers. Ole Miss, 87.1. Wisconsin, 81.3. Now, Grambling, not that big of a deal, but to start your season off at Florida State in 2023, he gave up 1 hit. He gave up 1 sack the entire season, and that was up against Missouri in week 6. And he only gave up 4 hurries and a total of 6 pressures on 474 pass blocking snaps in 2023. Now, what were you going to say?
No, yeah, exactly right. When you look at it too, the versatility for Miles Frazier, this guy started games right guard, left guard, and right tackle, and played at a school like LSU. And then you look at the physical traits, and you're like, how is this guy not a first or second round type player? Like, what's missing here, right? But there's only so many players that can be a first round pick and second round pick. So yeah, if you nail the pick late in the draft, you could get second round value out of a 5th round pick. That's obviously what we're hoping for with Miles.
I think that's a good analogy right there. What did you say? You said you can get a second round value out of a 5th round draft pick. And I think that's exactly what the Lions ended up here with Miles Frazier. Even if he was a 3rd round value, let's take a look at the whole shebang here. This was his season grades. 2024, 88 overall in pass blocking. 2023, 82.4. 2022, 73. And then at FIU in 2021, 74.5. So Miles is a little bit older coming out of school because he played 5 full seasons in college.
Right.
So this is, I mean, yeah, his first year he crushed it, 81.5 in pass blocking, only gave up three pressures on the whole season. His worst year was in 21 where he gave up 15 total pressures. And then he steps into LSU. Then he steps into the big time. All right, had a little bit of an adjustment period, but I'm sorry. 13 pressures on 511 pass blocking snaps. Dude's killing it. I mean, that doesn't get much better than that. So this guy has had an amazing college career. I still can't believe that he was taken in the freaking 5th round. Right? And yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think we've gotten or have received 2nd round, maybe 3rd round value on the Miles Frazier. And honestly, I don't care where they're drafted.
Right. Yeah,
They do. I don't.
Yeah. If they, whatever production they give you, but I mean, how many players has Brad Holmes drafted where, he hasn't been absolutely perfect? You do this long enough, you're going to have some misses, but there hasn't been a player, and a lot of players drafted after the 1st round, like Branch, Laporta, those guys are giving you 1st round production. That's how you become a really good football team in a matter of a few years, is you get a bunch of 1st round caliber players. And maybe Miles Frazier is, 1st, or however you want to quantify it. Is he a winning football player? And that's, I think, what we're asking about Tate Ratledge. That's what we want to see from Jameson Williams. I don't care how many stats you have. It's great you eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark, but if he had ended at 988, I don't look at it as a failure. Can you contribute on a winning football team, have a specific role carved out, and be reliable? And I think this team is full of players just like that.
That's exactly right. The other thing I want to point out too is, so the 33rd team did this background on Tate. So going back to Tate for just a moment. And I found this hilarious because here's what they said. Unlikely to offer positional versatility at the next level after 3 years of starting at right guard for the Bulldogs. And immediately Dan Campbell's got this guy snapping balls at center. Isn't that hilarious, right? So you can't believe everything you read. You can't believe everything from some other guy that's watching tape. You need to watch the tape your damn self, right? That's what we need to do. You have to watch it to figure out, can this guy move or not? Can he get to the second level? And that's the other thing. They said his body control in space can result in some missed opportunities on the second level. I didn't see any of that from Tate. I mean, the guy ran a sub 540, a 172 10-yard split, broad jumped 113, vertical 32, and his 3-cone was 738. All great numbers, right? All great numbers. So anyway, to start today off, it was, what are the Lions going to do, with this revamped offensive line? How much faith do we have that they're going to be able to keep this offensive line together and kind of sprinting forward through the 2025 season with no let off? And I got to tell you, we're not even talking about last year's draft picks. This is just this year's draft picks. We still have 2 guys that already have a season underneath their belts. Giovanni Manu didn't get a whole lot of airplay last year, but Mahogany did. And Mahogany might be one of the guys that flies under the radar. He might be one of our starters this year to start the season. But now it's an absolute dogfight with 4 guys. Giovanni Manu might be moved to left guard. He will be obviously trained up at left tackle, the eventual replacement for Taylor Decker as we know right now, which I think could happen as early as 2026. This offensive line is going to be as good, if not better, than what it was last year. And I know that's tough to say because we're going to be missing Frank Ragnow, but if these guys can hold down the fort and not giving up pressures and not giving up sacks, granted, this is the NFL, it's not college, but I think that we have 4 really good candidates to take 2 positions right now. And Graham Glasgow is going to slide in at center. He's going to be just fine. He knows that he's going to be the captain of the ship. And I feel like once you know that and you know that that's your job, he's now prepared to handle that this season, as opposed to just kind of getting thrown here and thrown there. And, every week could be a different story, for Graham like it was in 2023. Last year wasn't the greatest of year for him, but I think a lot of that was communication problems. I think, some of that culminated from, Taylor Decker not having the greatest season. And obviously Frank Ragnow didn't have the greatest season at times, at certain levels of his play. So big changes this year. Final thoughts on the offensive line before we kind of move into defense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think how invaluable is it for Giovanni Manu and Christian Mahogany to have had the year that they had last year? There's so much behind the scenes we don't see, right? If they're not on the field making plays, you don't really see them. But I remember you and Eric on many morning shows talking about seeing these guys warm up and not being surprised when Christian Mahogany goes out and plays really well when he does get the snaps. I think that is crucial. They may be different players this season than they would have been last year had they had the roles that they've got now at the start of last year. So to be able to kind of build and move towards this, and again, I'll always say, man, if it's as good of a position as you can be in to lose an all-pro center, anytime you have Penei Sewell on your line, if it's like, okay, who's my strongest point? They always say you're only as good as your weakest link, right? But if I've got Penei Sewell, I'm feeling really good. If I've got Taylor Decker, I'm feeling good. If I've got even a Graham Glasgow who has experience, I'm feeling good. Now let's rely on these guys to go in and perform. The standard set, they've got big shoes to fill, but reason beyond just hope from a fan, but reason to expect and believe that they will perform.
So who's that in the chat? Was that Cruising? Eric's doing work stuff. JK. He's got a lot of tours that he's doing right now. It's a very busy time for Uper Lights. So he's got a ton of stuff that he's got going on right now. He should be back Monday. I'll have to reach out to him, make sure he will be back. But he'll definitely be back before training camp gets rolling.
Check the status reports on Sunday night. We send those out.
Right. So this is an interesting one. I like this thought here. Ornery U of M Dad says Miles Frazier is definitely a football name. Have you ever thought about the player's name and do they really fit as a football player? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Would Will Rock been a football name?
Will Rock is a sweet name. It's an appropriate name for you. I've said that before. It's solid.
I mean, so Rock. I'm just seeing Rock on the back of a jersey. Is that a football name?
I mean, it's perfect for Rocked On. I think it is a football name.
I think O'Brien fits.
Yeah, we could roll with that.
What about Renta Mackey? That's a long one.
That's a name, and coincidentally enough, I feel like I've spoken with Eric, and he told me I think he was a punter when he was in school. But I'm like, if I see Renta Mackey,
he played some defensive end.
I think he punted too.
Yeah, I think he did punt too.
So yeah, that's. But yeah, no, I think that's a good point, Miles. For something like Brian Branch, like
you just can't. I mean, it doesn't get any better than Brian Branch.
Brian Branch. It's just, both start with a B. It's kind of like enough said, right? Brian Branch. There's some other good ones. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the defensive line. So PFF came out and look, there's been a lot of conversation about the defensive line this year. Let's just not even sugarcoat it, right? Everyone's thinking that the Lions are trash and they think that this defensive line is garbage and that we still need defensive ends every other day. And I just don't see how that's the case. And apparently PFF doesn't see that's the case either. So PFF in their recent rankings put out that the Lions are all the way up to number 6. Number 6 overall. Let me bring it in. Let's talk about all these defenses. And then we'll probably get into one thing, whatever you want to go over. I don't even know what's on your sheet. And then we're probably going to jump off for the night. So
cool.
You know what? While I get this whittled in or locked and loaded, why don't you, whatever you want to go over, go for it.
Yeah, let's see here. I'll save. We'll do a little bit on Sam Laporta here afterwards, but let me get back over here to the. There's some good comments going on here, but yeah, I'll say for a 6th ranking again. You know, the PFF, however much value you put into that. This is PFF, right? Yeah. Yep. So 6th overall. That's not bad for an entire position group that, according to a lot of the fan base, is up in arms over that group. If that's the weakest link, the sixth best in the league, I mean, I think that they're in a really good spot. And Todd says Brian Branch is better than Benny Blades. We'll take that. Marcus says
Benny Blades is a hell of a name, though.
That's good, man. I mean, I'll take either. Yeah. Detroit has the best NFC roster by 2 position groups. We went 15-2 on one leg from Marcus. Kind of hard to argue.
That's a great point, too, man. Yeah, it's really hard to argue that point.
That's the thing, man.
What did I say the other day? That we were finishing the season on crutches and probably a couple of wheelchairs, too? Like, yeah. It was bad. It's like we just had 911 dialed up and we had an ambulance on the field the entire time because somebody was going down. It seemed like every frickin' week somebody was going down. And that's not happening this year. These guys are going to have to stay healthy. I mean, it just is what it is. They have to stay healthy this year. If we want a chance at winning the whole thing, they have to stay healthy.
On that note, one thing I want to see, and I know there's only a limited amount of roster spots, but if there are games like Tennessee or Jacksonville last year, if the Lions build a big lead, I don't care if it's early in the third, you don't want to give up too early, but Detroit had those games won early last year. Tennessee, Jacksonville was one of those. If the Lions have the game in control, I would like to see, like, let's take Gibbs and Montgomery out, put in Vaki and Reynolds, try to cycle in some of these guys. I hope we'll see that. I know Campbell loves these guys, wants to trust them, go play these snaps, but hopefully if there are games where Lions have a sizable lead, I personally would like to see a little bit more rotation on the depth chart.
Yeah, I love it, and I know that was a common thought last year that, damn, we've got all these guys going down and, Brad, we're up by 40 against the Titans. Like, what are you doing? You got the starters rolling out there in the second half. What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the simple answer. The simple answer is you only allowed 48 guys on game day.
Right.
And when you think about it, you got 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense. You got 3 punters. That's 25. Or 3 punters. You got 3 special teams. That's 25 guys. That's 25 starters. Well, then you need roughly 25 to back them up, right? Well, not really, because your offensive line, there's 5 guys. You typically aren't going to take any of them out. So that drops you down to 20 guys that you need for backups. Quarterback, don't really need to back him up. He's not coming out. So that's 19 guys. On the other side of the football, I guess you could make a case for having backups everywhere, but really it's more scheme. So if you're in dime, obviously you're adding, cornerbacks or safeties. If you're in nickel, you're adding cornerbacks. But if in your base set, you've only got, 2 corners, 2 safeties out there, or 1 and 3 corners. It just depends on what sets you're in. But I'd say that you need a solid 15 backups to roll every single game. So you got your 25 starters, you got your 15 backups. That puts you at what? 50, 40?
Yeah,
it's
you're
40,
there.
right? And so then you got 8 other guys that you can potentially sub in at any position. So you're kind of rolling into every game with 8 guys, which is a couple of guys on the defense, a couple of guys on the offense.
Right.
And then you got special teams to think about too. So it's hard. So I'll make the excuse for Dan Campbell and say I get it. It's hard. You can't roll into a game with all these backups. But for us, it's like, why can't you get some of these guys out?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'm right there with you, man. I think that I would love to see some more rotation.
And to be fair, it's so rare. The NFL football is designed. It's so rare to see a blowout of a team, right? So I'm not expecting a ton of blowouts. But yeah, if the game's in control, try to get some of these guys out because I just don't want. I'd love to see Vaki get more carries instead of be on third string guys come playoff time.
Yeah. All right. So on this screen we have top ranked defensive lines to start the season. Pittsburgh Steelers at number 1. So let me wind this back a little bit. This is the 2025 NFL defensive line ranking. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward propel the Steelers to number 1. I definitely don't agree with this. I don't see how they're number 1. But it says led by edge defender TJ Watt and interior defender Cam Hayward. So let that sink in for a moment. We'll come back to that. The Steelers' defensive line continues to be one of the best in the NFL. 2 Pittsburgh players were among the 30 highest graded interior defenders. And 3, ranked in the top 20 among edge defenders last season. Hayward's 90.1 PFF overall grade ranks second at his position, while Watt's 91.7 mark was the 3rd highest among edge defenders. The Steelers even selected interior defender Derek Harmon, which I'm not high on. You guys know that. With their first round pick in 2025, further bolstering in the defensive unit. So there's your guys to start, right? You got Highsmith on the right. Now this is a 3-4, mind you. You got Watt on the left. Your nose tackle is Benton. Your left end is a rookie. And then your starting right end or defensive tackle is Cameron Hayward. I want to ask to let this sink in for a minute, right? Led by edge defender TJ Watt and interior defender Cameron Hayward. So what they're stating there is they have 2 elite players, 1 at each position. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So the Lions are no different than any other team. They have 1 all-star on the outside and 1 all-star on the inside, to use the word lightly, I guess. Let's go to the next team. The Eagles, I'm not impressed right now. I think the Eagles lost too much. I don't think that they're going to be the second best defensive unit in the league by any stretch of the word. And we're going to be doing a full preview, by the way. So we're going to give our rankings at some point soon. But saying that Philadelphia's defensive line was arguably the deepest in the league last season, I would say bull shnikes on that. I would say that the Detroit Lions are obviously the deepest defensive line in the league. Clearly, they won 15 games on the backs of backups. As a result, they say that even after the departures of Josh Sweat and Milton, 2 of their best guys on the team last year, 2 of their biggest producers, that the unit still remains one of the best in the NFL. How? I don't see how. Okay, so they have Jalen Carter and they got Moro Ojimo. That's it, in my opinion, at least right now. Move on to the next one. The Giants, come on. At number 3, says arguably no team has done more in the NFL to strengthen its defensive line and pass rush over the past couple of seasons than the Giants. They drafted Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. Well, shoot, I forgot about Carter. And they also traded for Brian Burns. Yeah, this could be a sexy defensive line. Honestly, it could be. Yeah, it could be tough.
Yeah, for sure.
And we take on the Giants this year, don't we? I think we do.
We do. Yeah, I think later in the season.
Goes on to say that the team's edge defender trio is complemented by perhaps the best nose tackle in the league, Dexter Lawrence. I think that he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league for sure. Maybe the Giants end up with the best overall. Who knows? Houston Texans. This one, look, they've been flirting with one of the best in the league, in my opinion. Though they brought Danielle Hunter down, it didn't change a darn thing. But they still have Will Anderson. Tim Settle was one of the highest graded interior defenders in 2024. But he had a 58.6 PFF overall grade that ranked just 58th at the position, which is terrible. The Texans have the best edge defender duo in the NFL, according to PFF, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. So let's break down these top 4 before we get to the next 2. Houston Texans, number 1. Do you believe that Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson are the best defensive end duo?
I think Will Anderson's a stud. Some of this is reputation. Some of this is what they expect. I think that they're really good. I don't think that they are, miles ahead of anything that the Lions have.
Well, for me, I'm going to say yes. I think without a doubt that they have the best on paper right now, the paper tiger syndrome. We've got to see it on the field. Danielle Hunter went down to this team, and after you hear all of these fans cry to have, a defensive end as good or better than the other guy on the other side, if that guy on the other side is an elite football player or a quasi-elite football player, he hasn't done anything to bolster that Texans defense, in my opinion. He did not make them, the number 1, right? They're not even the number 1 right now. They weren't last year. So I think this proves the point that even if you have 2 studs on both ends, You need more. You can't just survive with 2 defensive ends. You need more. And I would rather have, 8 guys sprinkled all over the field than just 2. How about the Giants? I totally forgot that they drafted Abdul Carter. Now, we don't know what he is yet because he's a rookie, right? But let's say he has an average season. He chops down 9 sacks. Where do you see the Giants ending up? And would you say that then they have the best edge rusher duo or trio in the league?
See, this one seems like just on paper, name value, promise from the Abdul Carter. This one I feel like is the best from this list.
I would say on paper it is.
Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and then Dexter Lawrence. I mean, I don't see a weakness on that front.
They have depth, right? And then they have strength everywhere. All right, so the Philadelphia Eagles, I'd have to pull up the rest of their depth chart. I'm not impressed with the Eagles. Honestly, I think that they'll finish outside the top 10, but when the season's done. I'll just tell you that's my take right away. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I probably wouldn't put them at number 1, but we don't know what the Giants are, right? But for right now, the Steelers at 1. I would not put Philly at 2. The Giants, we don't know who you are. The Texans, they could be good, but I don't think they have enough. All right, Buffalo Bills at 5. All right, Buffalo Bills, it says unit lacked a true star last season. None of their defensive linemen ranked in the top 10 at their position in PFF, but there are no obvious weak links, and it is one of the NFL's deeper defensive lines. Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones have formed a reliable interior defender duo. And then the Bills added Larry Ogunjobi to mix it in this offseason. And then they also signed veteran edge defender Joey Bosa. I'm not impressed by Joey Bosa. The dude's old. He's hurt. He barely plays the last 3 seasons. I'm not impressed. They also feel that he's going to add or be a significant addition if he can stay on the field. See, that's the question. That needs to be underlined. If he can stay on the field. And then, and remember all the Lions fans that wanted Joey Bosa to be in Detroit? And I'm thinking, you guys don't even want Marcus Davenport. Why would you want Joey Bosa? The guy's more hurt than Davenport is. All right, so then you got Greg Rousseau on that squad. I would put the Bills ahead of the Texans right now. And that's probably about it, at least for right now. And then you got the Lions at 6. The Detroit Lions defensive line may deserve a higher ranking based on, paper talent. So they're using my paper tiger syndrome. Oh, that's crazy. All right, so it says that there are quite a few question marks surrounding the health of its top players. While Aiden Hutchinson was on track to have a Defensive Player of the Year caliber season and led all defenders with a 94.9 PFF overall grade. All right, stop me there, please. Please stop me here. All right, let's go back to Aiden. It says, while Aiden was on track to have a Defensive Player of the Year caliber season in 24 and then led all defenders with a 94.9 PFF. I'm going to stop here, and here's why. How many games did he play, Riley?
5, 6.
Yes and yes. He played 5, and then he left after game 6 in Dallas. So It was actually 5 games because we had a week 5 bye. So he played 5 games. His PFF score was a 94.9. Now, you know the law of averages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the average would say the more games you play, what happens to your grade?
It regresses to the mean.
Exactly. So, and I'm not knocking Aiden. All I'm saying is you cannot tell me, and you couldn't tell any coach this or any GM this. Like if you tried to sell Aiden to another team, and try to trade him and say, but he was a 94.9 through 5 games last year. And they're going to say, exactly, 5 games. What did he do through 17? He didn't play 17. So what would have happened to that number overall? Would it have, to your point, regressed to the mean of Aiden? What's his mean number? Low 90s? Probably. Still a great number.
Yeah, still really good.
But I'm not going to get overly impressed by my opinion here, a bloated number, because he didn't finish the season. He didn't play all the snaps, and he was going up against third and fourth tier offensive linemen through last season before he was injured. That's a fact. He hardly went up against any starters last season at all. And the only time he really went up against a starter is when he was on the right side of the defense or the left side of an offense. So that's why they kept putting him on the left side of the defense. All right, now they're talking about Alim McNeill, saying that even though Alim McNeill is considered to be one of the best young interior defenders in the league and ranked 9th in 2024 with a 79.6, okay? 79.6 down here. Alim McNeill, 79.6 overall. Now, how many games did he play? So he exited, was that the Buffalo game?
It was, yeah. So that was week
14, 15? Right.
Late.
So that number is more accurate, right? That's way more accurate. Now, I'm curious. Do this for us. Look up Alim McNeill's PFF scores for 2024.
Okay.
All right. I'll be curious to know what his first 5 scores were. So the point that they're trying to make here is that the Lions are 6, but they don't mention anything. Like, they don't talk about the depth from last season. They don't talk about the players that we added. They don't talk about Tyleik Williams like they talked about, bringing in Abdul Carter for the Giants, right? They don't talk about anything. It just, PFF gets on my nerves some days, but how can you even put the Lions at 6 if you really only spoke about 2 players, both of whom are hurt, and one of them coming back from a major injury to start the season, and one won't be back till November? How can you make a case to be at number 6? So I think that this is a terrible ranking, and that's why we always do our own every year, but this just doesn't make any sense. You guys tell me in the chat below, and obviously in the comments later. Do you give PFF any credit at all for even putting this together when they really didn't make an argument at all for the Lions? I'm not saying that I don't want the Lions to be a top 6. I want them to be a top 5 unit. And I think that they will be. But I would not say that they're a top 6 based on what I just read right here. They're outside the top 10. And I think that they'd probably be at number 11 right now, because I would think that there's 10 other teams that have some healthier players that are ready to play. So I would love to know what your comments are on PFF, and this ranking, in my opinion, is just hot garbage. And again, it's not because I don't want the Lions there. I could not make an argument that supports that based on that information. All right, so what was Alim McNeill's first 5 grades?
Yeah, so week 1 was 67.9.
This is overall, right?
It is, yep.
67.9. All right, week 2.
Week 2, 68.9. Week 3 against at Arizona, 66.1. And then Seattle, that Monday night game, they wore all black, 77. Must have been the jersey. Must have been the jersey. And then at Dallas, we saw the uptick to 83.5. But that was a game where everybody ate. Everybody might have had their best stats that game because they dominated them. That might have been even with Dallas or Tennessee and Jacksonville last year. Like, the Dallas game was the most I've ever watched a game being like, dude, my team is like dominant. Like,
yeah, they crushed it. So that gives them an average of a 72.7 through the first 5 games. 72.7. So that is roughly 7 points less than the average for the season. And that's why I'm saying you can't make an argument for any player based on 5 games. Because if Alim McNeill played 5 games, that number drops from 79.6 to 72.7.
Yeah, and then how different does he look? How different does his contract look?
Right, exactly. Well, I don't think I know what you're saying. I don't think they take contracts into consideration from PFF, but
for sure.
But I get what you're saying.
If that was his score and the Lions gave him that deal, you might have more people say, "Man, the Lions they overpaid for this guy."
So here for me is this is I should just go back to this list. Hold on. This is where I don't understand PFF. And it's this team right here, the Los Angeles Rams. I'm still kind of pissed at Brad a little bit, Mr. Brad Holmes, just a little bit, that he didn't take Jared Verse.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I know why.
In 2023, I said Jared Verse was going to be the absolute best defensive end, and Detroit better go get him. Well, obviously the Rams selected him a couple of picks before the Lions had an opportunity, but my goodness, Jared Verse is different. He is built different. That guy is going to be a menace for years. They lose Aaron Donald. They bring in Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. Smart move. The Los Angeles Rams at 9. Sorry. Los Angeles Rams are at 6 right now. They're ahead of Detroit. They just are. And that's until we see what we see. The Broncos. The Broncos at 8. Ahead of the Rams? No way. No freaking way. But they still have Jonathan Franklin Myers and Zach Allen generating pressure. What they're saying, 14.7% of the plays, which is second among interior defenders last season. Why are they at 8? Why are they not ahead of Detroit 2 when they actually have healthy guys starting the season? So I would put the Broncos at 7. Cleveland Browns with Myles Garrett and only Myles Garrett. You can obviously make an argument that Myles Garrett can do the dirty work of 2 guys. He has his entire career. Them at 7 probably makes sense, but I'd probably put them at 8. You can see how it's easy to put the Lions down at 11 now. For me, anyway. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to really think through, but I mean, I can see why you like Buffalo because I think it kind of falls under your formula, I guess, of how you would like to see where there's, it's kind of by committee, but you talk about it all the time too. If the simple recipe was just get 2 dominant edge rushers, what would Cleveland have done in the draft? They would have taken Abdul Carter.
1,000%. And so you can still make, more arguments for some of these teams to be ahead. How about the Ravens? I mean, they're bringing in Odafe Oweu, David Ojabo. Kyle Van Noy has been around for a long time, but I still can't believe the Lions brought him in and then got rid of him, and he turned out to be one of the best dudes to play the position in a long time. Kyle Van Noy has just been a staple for the Patriots. They brought in Mike Green. I'm not super impressed, but they still have Matabuiki, right? It's hard to keep the Baltimore Ravens out of the top 10. I'd probably leave them right where they are, but maybe at number 9. Maybe.
Yeah. And they're all good. I mean, honestly, all of these lines are pretty good. And I think that, we'll find out. I'm excited to see how Hutchinson looks when he's back on the field. And then obviously the hope is that they all raise and make the game easier for one another, right? What does Aleem look like with Hutchinson next to him and vice versa all year long? And maybe we'll see Ahmed out there, man. Everything he's about, you expect to see production from him.
I'm expecting a lot from Mr. Hassanin in a limited package, if that makes sense. I think that we've seen it before, right? Where, the thing that I saw with James Houston, for instance, the guy goes out there and completely wrecks the season, plays in 7 games, has 8 sacks or something like that, starts on Thanksgiving against the Bills, racks up 2 sacks, but was only getting 6 or 7 or 10 snaps a game.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad and Dan, they just didn't trust him to go out there and do any more as a pass rush specialist. If they would have just left that dude alone as a pass rush specialist, probably could have been one of the better ones in the league. But they screwed him up, right? And I'm hoping that they don't do that with Ahmed, where you put him in for limited snaps. Obviously, you want to get his feet wet. You want to see what he can do. But if he goes out there and has production, do not hold him back. Let the dude go. If he starts to make mistakes, then you rein him back in. You just hope that those mistakes don't cost you some big games. Big super chat by a WBC0202 here. Thank you. Appreciate you for the $9.99 donation. He says, the Lions are going to have one hell of a rock'em sock'em season. I'm ready for all the fireworks. Can't wait. Looking forward to rocking with you boys all the way to the Super Bowl. Let's go Lions. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate that. Appreciate the donation. Thank you for being part of Rock Down Detroit Lions, man. You are the best part of why we are here. So I thank you. I appreciate you a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Man, it is really difficult to not talk about the Minnesota Vikings too. How the hell are they at 16?
Dude, they concern me.
Well, they concern I think everybody, but Dallas Turner was my second guy last year. Now he didn't have a great season last season, but he was also stuck behind guys like Jonathan Greenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. Ivan Pace shot out of a cannon the last couple of seasons. I mean, dude is just a wrecking ball. They're going to be a problem. Jonathan Hargrave, Jonathan Allen added to this team. You've got to be kidding me, right? At 16, you could make a case for the Vikings to be in the top 10. But I guess we'll find out what our rankings are here next week. I think that'll probably be Wednesday, so plan on it. Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I guess make your case for the Lions. What do you think about the Lions right now? And where do you think that they belong? And then the other team is the Bears we'll talk about. Then we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think just with the Lions, again, it's, you kind of preface this whole thing with, they went 15 wins last year with, a skeleton crew. So we just hope to see, the guys and not breaking any news there. We want our guys to be healthy, but I think I like the setup of the team. I like the makeup of everything, even down to you have a guy like Davenport who wants to prove he still has it, wants to get another contract. You've got motivated players. You've got a guy like Hutchinson coming back that wants to pick up where he left off. We'll see if he can. I think it's going to be hard to do, but the talent's there. It's by committee. You've got one star guy, and you've got a bunch of pieces that should work well together. Returning faces, they should have chemistry. It should be one of the strengths of the team.
I'm getting a little bit concerned that why are all of the handles changing?
Yeah, that is interesting.
And why are they all changing yet? Like, I hope that my handles aren't changing. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be detrimental to the channel.
Yeah, for sure.
No, my handle didn't change. So that would be interesting. You guys go look at your handle. I mean, is it different on your YouTube? Does it look different on your channel? Or is it just coming out different? It's like they purged everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen it like that. It's usually just a name, not a handle.
That's really odd.
Yeah, you should just say like Brandy Coffee. Now it's at Brandy Coffee 9345.
Well, I think the ats have always been there, haven't they?
I don't think so.
Maybe they haven't been, but the fact that their names are changing, though, like it's like that was Will Carter who dropped in the 999, but his name is changed to WBC 0202.
Got you. Yeah. So it's like a default to the handle instead of just a username or what your profile name is or whatever. Always something, man. It's
yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I don't understand it. So Sapphire Blaze put in the chat that it's changing your chat name to your handle name. I see. Yeah, mine used to say my name. Now it's got my handle. That's interesting. Well, I guess go try to change your handle to match what you want your name to be and see if it's available. I always try to do that anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I always try to have both of mine match as much as I can on all my other channels. They match. You want them to match, at least, if you're doing a channel that you're trying to do content with. So,
yeah.
All right. I guess I already took off. I already took the PFF down for the Bears. So F the Bears. We don't care anyway. It is what it is. Riley, give us one last topic for the night, and then let's get out of here. But I would love to know in the chat in the comments below, how on earth does PFF put the Lions at number 6 without making any sort of a case at all? It's almost like, okay, Lions, we're just going to throw you at 6. We don't have an argument. We don't have a reason. We're not going to talk about anything you did last year. We're not going to give you any flowers, but we'll put you at 6. Makes no sense. I'm going to see who wrote that. I'm going to think I'm going to write them a letter back. Like, what did you guys do? Whoever wrote this should be fired.
Yeah, it's like draft grades. You see them, and one guy's got this team gave an A, and this guy's got a C minus. It's like, what's the formula here? How are you doing this?
Right. Well, I think some of it is because they're fans of other teams. You gotta. That's what I love about doing this channel, is because I can be unbiased. I really can, and that's why we're doing unbiased reviews. They'll be coming out, and then preview. Riley, stay on for a couple minutes so we can talk preview timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, this one will be kind of quick, but it's something that's been on my mind a lot too, and I'd like to know in the comments what you guys expect Sam Laporta's stat line to look like this year. Interesting, in his second season, so last year, right, the expectation was so high based on what he did his rookie year. It was unprecedented. It was amazing. He actually had fewer targets in 2024 than he did in 2023, but improved in efficiency in almost every metric: yards per target, catch rate, yards after catch. Sam Laporta is a winning football player. We know that. And he had a discussion with Tim Tonyman. This was actually about a month ago now, so some of you may have already seen this. But for third-year Detroit Lions tight end Sam Laporta, the process for getting ready for this season means getting inside the head of quarterback Jared Goff. Sam Laporta said, quote, "I want to start to see the game from the quarterback's perspective, what Jared needs exactly, and maybe not just knowing what I'm doing on the field, but what other people are doing as well, just seeing the bigger picture." Sam also talked about how excited he is to work with Johnny Morton, how they plan to use him. He's obviously very excited about. So it's so hard to say. What does a successful season for Laporta look like for you guys statistically? And do those measurements exist for you guys, or is it just keep being Sam Laporta, keep being the starting tight end of a team that wins a hell of a lot more than they lose? But Will, what do you think? Kind of just give us your thoughts. I know you've probably talked about it at length before, but Sam Laporta, year 3, what are your expectations? Do you think Johnny Morton's going to utilize him any differently than we saw from Ben Johnson?
Well, last season, I think that Sam Laporta was a little bit underutilized because he was battling some injuries, I think, for the first several weeks. And before I get into that, let me pull up his stats for just a moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think I actually have one right here too. And we got another super chat by Adam.
Yeah, I'll get into that as soon as I'm done with this one. So I appreciate it, Adam. We'll get into it in 1 second, buddy. I got to get you guys both your shout outs tonight. So Sam Laporta in 2023 had a record year for a tight end, right? I mean, he finished, I think, 3rd overall for all tight ends ever in the NFL history, or 4th overall. He was really close. You know, he needed about another, 200 yards or something to get up to, I think, that 1,100 mark or whatever it was to pass Mike Ditka, which Brock Bowers did last season, correct?
Yeah.
He caught 86 passes, 889 yards, 10.3 average, a 48 long, and 10 TDs. Last season, he was more efficient, right? 60 balls, he caught 726 yards, 12.1 average, so way more efficient. I think that Ben was getting him a little bit more downfield. And I think that was part of the problem. They were utilizing him less underneath. I don't understand that. I'm not sure why. But only 7 TDs last year. Great season. Only 7 TDs, right? Great season. 17 TDs in his first 2. If you were to just divide this right down the middle, I would say his stat line's going to be 70, 800, 11 average, and probably 8 TDs. And that's good enough for me. I would love to see him go, 75, 1,000 or 80, 1,000, because I'd love to see 4 guys hit 1,000 this year. I would love to see 2 running backs go, 1,000 and 500. Maybe Gibbs goes 1,000, 1,000, and David goes 1,000 and 500, and Sam Laporta goes for $1,000, and Amon-Ra and Jameson each go for $1,000. You got 5 players going for $1,000. It'd be insane. I think it can be done. I just don't know if it needs to be done. But you know what I said last year, Riley, to start the season, and no one believed me, is I said Amon-Ra does not need to go for 2,000 yards. He does not need to go for 1,500 yards. He doesn't. He needs to have complementary pieces around him that can all fill in, some of the yardage he's going to leave behind. He's going to be a distractor, just like Jameson is a distractor for Amon-Ra. Sam Laporta is a distractor for all of those guys. Now Jahmyr Gibbs having more action out of the backfield is going to be a distraction for all of those guys too. So nobody has to have a number. Collectively, they can put the numbers together. And that's why I said last season, Amon-Ra is not going to get 1,500 yards. There's no need for it. He needs to get his 1,000. Maybe he needs to get 100 catches. They just have to be very efficient at what they do. I'm not saying that they need 7,000 yards of offense to win, but I'm just going to say in the first half of this season, I think that the first half of this season is going to have to be won by the offense, and I think the second half of the season is going to have to be won by the defense. And the reason why I say that is because I think the defense is going to be a little bit banged up to start, and we need the offense to have total control. That they don't allow these teams to even come close. So to answer your question, I think Sam Laporta just needs to do what he's been doing, but just stay efficient. Be the first down monster. I'll call it 70, 800, 11 average, and 8 TDs. I think that's the stat line for Sam Laporta this year. And I'll do a Rocked On bet. We're gonna bet it up. And then we're also going to be getting the Rocked On Fantasy League started early this year. And I think that we're going to start a dynasty team this year so that it's something that can follow us year after year after year.
I love it, man. That's great. I like what you just said. I feel like that was a nail on the head moment too of and keep that in mind, everybody listening in. And maybe you guys already kind of have those same thoughts, but like Will said, the offense can have to carry things out the gate, and then you can rely on the defense the back half of the year. That's a perfect formula for this team, I feel like, because you get all these guys back on offense. If that's how it has to be done, I feel like I could bank on that, because this offense should just be elite again. And I remember week 1 last year, Rams-Lions. At the end of the game, you and Eric were doing a post-game talking about the stats, and Laporta and St. Brown, their combined stats were like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 catches. It was minimal stuff. It's something that you would look at and think, if that's the box score, like maybe the Lions lost, but they didn't. And they won a game, with having limited production from those guys. Because again, it's what you said. It's not about chasing a number. It's about doing whatever you've got to do to win. And that's the benefit of having a quarterback like Jared Goff and an offense with talented players all over. So love Sam Laporta, man. Who doesn't, right? But we'll see what he does this year. But I expect him to have his best season, even if it's not as good statistically as his rookie year.
There's some really good comments here in the chat. Let me highlight these real quick. KC006 says, with St. Brown and Gibbs underneath, Tesla and Laporta will see more red zone and first down success. I think that's a great take. I think that's a spot on take too. They're going to pull some of the guys away and underneath, allowing Tesla and Laporta to find those creases, sit down and get some action. Ornery U of M Dad also says increased usage of JMO and hopefully Tesla, I think, will be underutilized. I'm hoping he gets 9 TDs, 65 receptions, 800 yards. Was that for Tesla or for JMO? I think Tesla is probably going to be half that, to be honest with you, if those are Tesla numbers. I think if Tesla somehow gets 500 yards, 40 catches, I think that's a great year. Maybe 4 or 5 TDs. I think that's a great year for a rookie, fighting for opportunities between Sam, right, Amon-Ra and JMO. I think and Gibbs. Right, he's got to fight for opportunities. There's another one here too. Will, are you still looking for volunteers to do work at tailgates? Yes, we'll always need volunteers. I'll put more information out as we get rolling. Marcus Newsom, JMO will lead the league in yards per carry. Ooh. St. Brown will lead the league in receptions. Love it. J-Rod, good to see you in the chat tonight, man. I hope you're doing well. Again, heart, prayers, thoughts with you, buddy. And I think that was it. So Adam Gakowski says, let's go Lions. Ready for the season to start. Man, we all are so ready. And Adam, I did get your $25 Cash App today. We weren't on this morning for me to thank you, so I'm going to thank you right now. I appreciate you as always, man. And I'm looking at my board right now, and I see Tyleik Williams, Isaac Tesla, and Tate Ratledge, and I have no idea what these are. So I'm going to play this one, Tate Ratledge. I have no idea what it is. If it's not what I hope that it is, then I'll turn it off.
The Denver Broncos have traded the 57th pick to the Detroit Lions. With the 57th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select
Tate Ratledge, guard from Georgia.
Not a very exciting announcement for Tate Ratledge. Just not. Let's hear Tyleik Williams.
With the 28th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State.
Wait, what did that guy say at the end?
With the 28th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State.
Couldn't hear it. All right, Isaac Tesla.
Packer Nation, what's up?
This one's funny.
2-0 in this place. It feels amazing.
2-0 in this place.
1 year ago on this weekend, I cried because I thought I was going to be a Packer. But the Kings of the NFC North came and saved me. Detroit, baby, one pride.
Wow.
Pipe down, pipe down, pipe down. The Jacksonville Jaguars have traded the 70th pick to the Detroit Lions. Let's see who my future teammate will be. With the 70th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Isaac Tesla, wide receiver, Arkansas. One pride.
Man, you gotta love TA. The dude is just so charismatic about everything he does. All right, let's get out of here. We'll see you guys back on Monday for the Rise and Grind morning show. We'll see what pops this weekend, which will probably be absolutely nothing. But we're going to be working on previews, reviews, and rankings for probably the next 3-4 weeks. We've got a couple of series that we're trying to knock out, so I'm going to get busy on that. And again, I appreciate you guys all joining us tonight on what is a late scheduled show. I'm going to try to get things scheduled early this weekend, at least for next week. We'll be a week early so you guys know what's popping and when we're going to be on. Riley, what's your final thoughts of the day, man?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited about Isaac Tesla as well. So much to look forward to. And as Brandy just said, we are, like 71 days, 19 hours. So she's got us the countdown. So appreciate that. And yeah, appreciate everybody hanging out with us on a Friday night. And excited for what we have in store. And we'll be back here Monday morning. Go Lions. Have a great weekend, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
All right, you guys are awesome as always, man. Lions fans are the absolute best part of this channel. Always have been, always will be. You're the reason why that we're here. 27 years, man, being a loyal Lions member. Big shout out to my dad for making that possible for all these years and continuing on the family legacy and tradition. I want you guys to be part of the family legacy and tradition here at Rock On Detroit Lions. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a fun season. We do a lot of fun giveaways, a lot of great raffles. You can get your hands on all sorts of Lions signed merchandise with certificate of authenticity provided by Pro Sports Zone of Livonia. Please visit John Yu this weekend and let him know that Will Rock sent you. Get yourself a discount at Pro Sports Zone in Livonia and go get your Lions gear, man. Whatever you don't have in your closet, go get it now. And we'll see you guys next week. So take care, go in pride. We'll see you guys in the next one. Be great this weekend. Be safe. Stay cool. And make sure your loved ones are as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
The podcast.
Shout out to Rock On Detroit Lions, man. One pride.